start my presentation with my PowerPoint slides. Can everybody see my screen now? John, can you see my screen?
Yeah, this is Josh. We can see your screen.
Okay, thanks, Josh. All right, so let me get started here. Okay, so my topic today is enabling smart cities with geofencing. As John had introduced me, I'm a BA with AT&T. I work on their e-commerce platform. Specifically, I work on this application called Sales Express, which is an iPad application that helps sales folks gather information about their customers when they're in the field. So it's quite an exciting application that I'm working on, and I happen to work on an equally exciting project when I was at Verizon, which I'll be talking about. But before I do that, I just want to go through a few things to give you a backgrounder on geofencing. So geofencing is something that is mostly associated with the cities. It could be associated with rural areas also, but I think the thrust right now is enabling this in cities. So what is a smart city? So a smart city is a urban development. It could be inner city, it could be a suburban area even, which integrates multiple information and communication technologies and the Internet of Things, which is a big buzzword nowadays, towards managing a city's assets. And it's basically the idea of having a smart city is to improve the quality of people's lives by using information technology and getting feedback from residents that live in certain spaces and to continue to improve the quality of life in a city. So what is geofencing? So most people are aware of Wi-Fi, which is pretty much the same thing as geofencing. Geofencing is a little broader term. So we all know what happens in a Wi-Fi zone. So if you if you're working at Starbucks, you can use their Wi-Fi just within the perimeter of Starbucks. And once you step out of the perimeter, of course, you lose a signal and things don't work. So geofencing is the same thing. It's creating a virtual geographic boundary, either with Wi-Fi, or it could even be with the GPS or some other technologies, such that it can can be used to trigger response in your smartphone or a mobile device, such as your laptop or your smartphone. Just a usage of this of geofencing is the company has now geofenced locations of 180,000 U.S. schools. So that is a quick one on geofencing. Why does geofencing matter? Because as we all know, smartphones are everywhere. 30% of the world's population is already using location-based services. We use navigation thanks to GPS satellites. Most people are depending on their phones. One of the biggest examples probably for those using iPhones is the Reminders app. that definitely uses geofencing. And I'll be talking a little bit more about a particular app that I worked on down the line. And it's definitely works based on the physical location you're at. So if you're at, say, Panera, it might give you a message saying, "Welcome to Panera. There's this menu item is being offered at a lower price," something of that sort, and will lure you into Panera. That may be a application of geofencing on your phone. And it basically allows triggering of the right messages given the time and place. It increases your loyalty or sales and stickiness to, say, Panera, and it improves the decisions, meaning that it basically gets you into Panera. There are not many applications of geofencing, especially in cities like Boston, New York, LA, and there are a lot of private companies engaged in developing geofencing applications for governments, and they could range from applications that help fight crime, use social media, fix potholes, track health code violations. One such application I know of, and I interviewed for this position actually, was the MTA in New York City. And they were building an app that could be used in the subway, and it could actually give you a lot of information about the stations, about attractions around those stations, and things like that. Restaurant apps that, that app could connect with a lot of applications like Yelp or any other application that they may choose to have you see. There are, of course, a lot of commercial applications, one of which I'm going to discuss again with some more detail. They will help push marketing promotions to customers. They can enable surveys, and they can also enable track competitors. So three main technologies that are used in geofencing. The one that I described prior, just a while ago, was Wi-Fi. That seems to be the most popular one right now. It's used everywhere: Starbucks, Panera, and all these such applications. There are also long-range applications which are less commonly known. Of course, we use a navigation in cars. That could be thought of as a geofencing application too. And then there are short-range applications also, which was something that I worked on at Verizon Wireless. The use of beacons, which are basically small Bluetooth-enabled transmitters that are strategically placed in the Verizon store, and then they can do something which is something I'm going to explain in the next slide. So this is the app that I worked on when I was at Verizon Wireless. So the way it worked was, given that you had the My Verizon mobile application loaded onto your phone, and given that you were in the vicinity of a Verizon Wireless store, the beacons that were installed in the store would basically tell the smartphone that you were within a few feet of the Verizon store, and then the application would pop at you saying, "Welcome to Verizon," and it would offer you a few things that were available within that store. So for instance, as you can see here, it would say, "Welcome to the Verizon Totowa store," which is in northern New Jersey. And it could also pop at you things like, you have a workshop at half an hour. So if you maybe just after work and you signed up for a workshop a few days ago, and you happen to walk by that store, it might say, "Hey, you have a workshop tomorrow at 6:30," and that will be a reminder for you. Or it could also help you set up appointments with a customer service rep so that you don't have, and you could just like, I think many people are doing that now. Apple is already doing it online. Verizon started doing this from this application forward. They also have a lot of promotions that are built into the application. So something that is specific to the Totowa store. So they may have Bluetooth headsets available at a sale at a lower price. So that will be shown. And of course, this design ended up being iterated many times, and they had many more features that were added to this application. But that was the general idea. And I have a small video which can walk us through how it works.
Ashish, no one's hearing the audio to the presentation.
Oh, can they? Sorry.
We can't hear the audio if there is one for the app. I don't know.
Oh, you can't? Sorry. There's something going on. Let me just double check. Let me get back again.
So they're asking if you could
Sorry
backtrack
about
to
that.
the beginning of that, the app, or the video.
Out here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Make sure the audio works.
Again. I think the audio was on, but maybe it's, try that again. Can you hear that now?
No. It's not coming through the computer. Maybe you have to put your microphone up to the speaker or something.
Yeah, moving these headsets. I'm not sure. Let me try this again. Maybe there's a setting on. It's probably, yeah, I think I have some network issues, but maybe I think I went through most of it. Is it okay if I just
Yeah,
move
the
ahead?
idea of what happened. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so that was just a quick view of the application. What I did out there was kind of a triple role, actually. I was a business analyst, of course, but I also took on the role of a user experience designer, and I also did some project management work for this app. So from a user experience perspective, I tried to work with a lot of customers. I used to actually visit door-to-door store, talk to a lot of the customers, and get a lot of feedback as to what they were looking for in an app like this. Then I also worked as a business analyst, so I created a lot of requirements around this app, which hooked into the internal systems that were in place at Verizon. And then I also was the official Scrum Master for these releases. So we worked on a monthly, almost like a monthly cycle. So those three things is what I did for this app. And then finally, just a few issues that concern geofencing. So obviously there are privacy concerns. You can choose to opt in to the services offered by an app like this, opt out. It's your choice. A lot of people don't want to read the fine print, so that's been an issue. There are always security breaches. It's happened. It will continue happening. And one of the big issues that we were facing with all these new technologies is a battery drain, which a lot of people don't appreciate. And I believe that's been worked on by many phone companies right now. And that's all I had. Any questions? If people really want to see this presentation, I can send out a link to Josh, and he can share it with everyone.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, that'll be easier. It's a quick, I think, 2-3 minute video, and it's online anyway, so it should be readily accessible. So I think that's all I have, Josh. I'm good. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah, actually, just a short note, not a question, but I do have experience with that. I have a couponing app on my phone, IBATA.com or Ibotta, and I notice that whenever I go near a store, let's say CVS or Target, it'll say, hey, there's offers for you here in the store. So it does know where you are. It's like if you're driving by CVS, it'll know, hey, you're right near CVS. It'll start pinging you. So it's pretty interesting.
It is very interesting, and they have a whole database of these things going on, and they link your account with where you stay and the possible locations of different businesses, and that's actually a business model because Verizon Wireless works with a lot of companies like CVS, for instance, and basically, it doles out those advertisements based on their relationship with CVS and things like that. So it's a very solid business model going on there.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
So I guess I will now thank you and introduce our presenter, keynote speaker. I'll change the presentation to Ken in one moment. Let me just introduce him first. So our keynote speaker is Ken Fulmer. He is the interim president and CEO of the IIBA. Ken was formerly a CIO at Delic US and the CTO of Sunoco, both energy services companies. He's active in the IIBA community since 2007 and has held several positions, including chapter president for the Philly chapter, and he's a member of the parent IIBA board of directors since 2011, and in 2016 he was appointed board chair. And today he visits us again as the interim president and CEO of the IIBA. So now I will give control over to Ken, and we will hear his presentation.
All right, thanks, Josh. Thanks for the lead-in. Let me just go to full screen here. All right. Can everyone see my screen? Am I good, Josh?
Yeah, you're good.
All righty. So I'm just going to start out with a little bit about talking about the marketplace and the business analyst's career path. You know, in the time we have, that it's kind of just a high-level look at it, really focusing around the skills and roles and looking at, you know, what are the changes that are going on in the market and what's going to happen in the future with the classic roles and how they'll evolve. And then I'm going to wrap up with a look at what IIBA intends to do to support members and chapters in this changing marketplace. So on the marketplace side, what we see is the whole profession of business analysis is growing. Last look we had at the U.S. Department of Labor, it said it's going to grow at about 25% a year, primarily around technology and digital systems, but it is found in other areas of the business besides the technology area. Is there demand for this, you know, the current role? There is, but as we all know, it's rapidly evolving. A lot more trends happening in the marketplace, not the least of which is Agile as a technique, which, you know, kind of alters the different roles in a project. We also found, this is a survey going back a little bit here to 2014, but was reinforced as we looked at the more recent KPMG study. Many of the people that self-identify as BAs really are in a hybrid or multiple role situation, right? And the other aspect of the marketplace is with consumer and the kinds of things that Ashish was just talking about, consumer expectations, and hence management that's in that community just has a pretty high expectation as the pace of change goes forward. So from the generalist role, you know, we're seeing expanded. A lot is happening at the front end of projects, seeing BAs getting more involved in scope definition and value, in what the project solution ought to be, and on, you know, more on the back end, but some of it in the front end around the planning for change, planning for testing, looking at different things that are going on there. The other big trend we see is a lot more involvement in the design process around the user experience. Another big trend we see out there that we'll talk about a little bit more at the end is about data and content level. So Gartner's coined this phrase around the citizen data scientist. We see that evolving and getting more involved in the profession. I noticed that Angela Wick kind of included similar discussion in her recent blog posts on, you know, what are the 6 core skills for the BAs going forward. The one that I think is really important, and we're trying to think through how to evolve it, is the security aspects. It's hard to conceptualize how you can design a system in this day and age and not be versed in how to set up the security. I'm not talking about, you know, network perimeter security. I'm talking about application level security. and that's going to become more important for BAs to have a better understanding of. And then, the kind of a bigger picture thing here is just an expanded role of what critical thinking is about, using more evidence, or I think some people have called it forensics-based analysis, of looking deeper into what has to be done than just what comes out of a standard elicitation process, that deeper dive concept, and the use of more visualization. So I think those are things, these are the 5 perspectives that we've incorporated into BA BOK 3.0, and certainly are very applicable. Kind of share with you some behind-the-scenes stuff. The Agile space, we are in a partnership with the Agile Alliance. I'm speaking for IIBA at this point. We are in a partnership with the Agile Alliance, and we are going to be coming out with a new version of the Agile extension to the BA BOK early this year. So we're waiting, both sides have to close on the agreement and validate the work, but we will be releasing that in the first half of 2017, and we expect it to be quite impactful. A whole lot of work has gone into this from both sides, and we're very excited about that. So there'll be a lot more to be said about that as we build up to that release. Business intelligence is another area we're just beginning to get a little traction in IIBA. As you know, we published the perspective. We're also forming a special interest group about business intelligence. It's being run out, the people that started it, the 3 people that started it are out of Australia, but it's catching on pretty quickly, and IIBA is gearing up to put some support behind that initiative, and we'll move forward. On information technology, we have some plans I'm not quite ready to talk about, but another significant partnership with a household name type of partner to help us really springboard forward with an extended perspective, or BA BOK extension, that will apply for information technology in conjunction with what we normally think of as the developer side of our business practice. Business architecture and business process management, we're getting close to doing a deal with the people at the Business Architecture Guild, and so this year you'll see some more coming out of that, and we're working towards what we can do to improve our perspective around business process management. So those are all things coming up. This is just kind of a list. I'm not going to drain this, just to say that there's a lot as we look at things moving forward, where the underlying skills of the BA apply in some of these specialty roles. The one I'll draw your attention to is the product manager, which is more common in the marketing side of the shops out there. But those set of skills are very much part of what I'm going to talk about in a little bit, of migration to the digital business analyst. So we are, again, I'm expecting within the next couple weeks, producing a paper that we developed jointly with Forrester based on research that we did globally, to talk about the new and emerging role of the digital business analyst. The other that is out there that the KPMG study helped us identify is we really need to put more emphasis around strategic business analysis and strategy. So there's 2 aspects to this. One is enterprise level, looking at how to apply business analysis at the portfolio level, let's call it, across the enterprise, across all applications, beyond any single project. The other aspect of this is in strategy, and strategy can apply at that same broad enterprise level, but it also applies down to the division and department level as to how they implement strategy and the strategic aspects within a project, not just the tactical and operational things. So we're looking at all of those. So an example may be we'll pull out and make more robust our business case practice, our change management practice. Some of those things can be applied at both levels, and so we'll be looking at how to do that. The other that I wanted to talk about it in a broader sense is one of the things that IIBA is trying to do, and we're trying to bring into the profession of business analysis as BAs as part of integrating all of the other professions. If you look at our tagline, it's about building a community of professionals to achieve better business outcomes, right? So in order to unite that community, it's not just uniting the community of BAs, it's looking at the community of all the professionals that are involved in delivering solutions, whether you're talking about a technology solution, a business process improvement solution. It's across the board. It's about integrating with other professions. That could be change managers, business architects. That varies depending on the situation. But we're wanting to position IIBA and the business analyst profession as the enabler of this integration with a focus of, let's make sure that we're doing the right thing to get those better business outcomes. So that's going to be a key part of what we believe the evolution of the profession will become. It's part of being strategic, and it's part of what IIBA is attempting to accomplish within our view of how we'll evolve the support for the membership, the chapters, and the profession. So in the new era of applying BA skills, one of the things we learned, again, from the KPMG study reinforced this, is a lot of what we're talking about is collaboration it's driven by the business, and that's where the BA role comes in. It's really about the role that we've always done of being the integration point to the business people, and not just, the underline of collaborators is saying not just in, interviewing them and documenting requirements and doing the elicitation process requirements. It's a broader role than that. It's about how you really collaborate to get them the right business outcome, the right solution they're looking to achieve. And we believe that form of collaboration is what is the underlying piece. I think there were a couple of interesting recent blogs out there. Coop, I think, even had a little webinar today that kind of alluded to some of this stuff about how we all get there. The other aspect that very much dovetails with this is taking on the role of trusted advisor. It's more than a task person. It's really about who does the business go to as who they trust to help them solve problems. That's another underlying need we have to achieve as a profession. Design becomes, we touched on that a little bit, but I can't overemphasize that enough. And then the focus on business outcomes, which in the agile world translates into value, but it's still about business outcomes and about change, not just change within the project that you're working on, but change in the organization. Some of the emerging trends we see out there, business analytics, both in terms of how we are consumers of it to do better elicitation techniques, better forensic deeper dives using data, but then also looking at the expanded concept of using business intelligence and analytics, which uses so many of the common skills of the traditional BA role. It's just adding the data and a little bit of statistical stuff on top of it to do that. Talked a little bit about the digital business analyst. This looks to be a significant change in the marketplace, and it gets into when technology becomes embedded in devices. Kind of, if you go back to the presentation Ashish gave, and it talks about the Internet of Things, all of that implies that more technologies build into those things that allow them to network together, that give us new opportunities. So it's not limited to a traditional information environment. It's bigger than that now. It's really going to be much more, and if you think about companies like Google and Uber and things like that about what is in there. It's not just about information workflows and transactional systems. It's a different concept that's out there. We always have worried about the customer experience, but now when you turn that into a digital marketplace, it even rises up. That whole design customer experience piece becomes important for BAs to have in their toolkit. And then the agile, migration, a lot of people are looking at this product owner role, or even a proxy product owner at times it's referred to. So those are all things that we see coming up. So some of the changes are driven by technology, some just by the change of information in terms of the velocity. Certainly we know that the volume of information is expanding. I just saw a little blurb that said if we took the information in Google and tried to put it in books, that stack of books would go from the surface of the Earth to Mars and back again 7 or 8 times. So it's just an unbelievable amount of information we're dealing with, and it doesn't stop, and the forms of the content are growing. We talked about the digital, but that creates this digital vulnerability and ups the game for security. I think what that creates, and you'll hear this echoed more and more from IIBA, we really are trying to drive the concept of a lifetime learner. It's not like you get your certification and life is good and it's kind of the end of the path. We really believe that into the future, the ability to quickly and easily ascertain knowledge just in time for topics that you need to work on, in the very near future, are the way that we're going to have to deliver information and be an enabler of that and move the whole approach we have to evolving a person through their career and their information needs and learning experiences is going to evolve with it. So this is kind of a summary of that, that I won't drain this whole slide, but we're the one in the middle there about one of the things that we intend to do differently is really look at our approach to certification. But we already are getting amazingly good traction. For IIBA, certification is year on year, not just the year we changed from 2 to 3. But if I look over the past 3 years, certification is growing by an average rate of 20% a year. So that we're getting more traction with it. The profession's getting more recognized. Corporations and governments, more and more you're seeing job descriptions where it's more often included than it had been in the past. I think the other move that's out there that's really important to understand is we're going, the old test, the exam was half the heartache, right? I mean, the preparation, the submission of the application. The exam was a knowledge test and was, painful in the preparation stage to memorize the BA BOK essentially. The new exams under BA BOK 3.0 are much more competency-based. So we're going to put less emphasis on the application, much more emphasis on the case studies and scenarios that we present as part of the examination process, and continue to, we're just taking our first pass at it. In the last month or two, we're examining the feedback of that. We're going to make that more and more rigorous to really make sure that our certifications mean you're really capable of doing the job, not that you just memorize the BA BOK. So that was feedback we heard from employers that we've acted on, and besides just changing the levels, this is really the core of the difference of what we're doing. The other is we're going to re-examine the recertification process, and we're, without giving too much detail that, I'll talk a little bit about it. We're going to drive out more, call them micro certifications or badges that people will earn over time to get that more just-in-time learning and reflect at a verifiable level that people have an appropriate skill that is an add-on to their IIBA, key certification that they have. So that's kind of the direction we see. Certainly, becoming a lifetime learner, be collaborative, understand what the core competencies need to be flexible, you be a trusted advisor, and the last one, the pitch is, it also means giving back to the discipline, which IIBA is blessed with so many people who are great volunteers who have contributed to the body of knowledge and have done so much to bring IIBA to where it is. So that will continue to be important to IIBA. We're gearing up to engage a lot more volunteers, so hopefully by the end of the month there'll be a call for even more volunteers to make other contributions to IIBA in a number of different areas. So, and they should be valuable assignments too. This isn't busy work stuff. This is really driving us to the next level of what we're working on. So I'm going to skip this slide about the chapter thing. Leave that in there for you to look at. I just want to talk a little bit about what we're doing here to I just want to shrink this out of the way. There we go. There we go. Our strategic plan. So this is the one that we've worked on. We're in the third year of this plan. So I'm going to talk from it, but I'm going to add in some color commentary as we go, and I'm going to try and do it not in the context in a general sense as strategy, but what does this mean to the members and to the chapters? So if I look at that leftmost, gold standard, we talked about the BA, BOC, and extensions, right? So I kind of alluded to where we are with some really big extensions coming down the path. Now, at the same time, I think it's, if I'm telling you something you don't know, I hope I'm not, but PMI is getting ready to come to market in the first half of this year with their own knowledge book that is, to replace their collection of articles, I'll call it, that were in their previous publication. So they're going to a public review within the next few months. We think, that'll be an interesting effort, but we believe also they're going to be playing catch-up with us. So if we look at our BA BOC 3.0, it's a couple of years old. We're moving on to some newer, bigger, better things. We're also looking at how to reformat the BA BOC to keep it continually evolving by making, instead of having a paradigm of a published book, moving to a digital publishing model. So we'll have parts of it that are, truly static, more static than the rest, and other parts like the tools and techniques where we can more dynamically change it without having to do a major new republication. So those are all things that are in the immediate future and a little bit further out. We already have accomplished the competency-based learning outcomes. We've simplified the certification process, both the application process. We added the level 1 and level 4. Level 1 is out there and available. Level 4, we've decided to open up for more public comment as we thought about that as to what we want out of level 4. So that'll be an opportunity for volunteers to jump in and have a bigger voice in what level 4 is going to look like. Just in terms of numbers, we think there'll be a few hundred level 4s. We're looking at tens of thousands of level 1 people with the notion of that's the entry-level module, right? We expect to drive that out to the EEP community and, very importantly, to the academic community to embed in either some part of their, undergraduate program, but more likely into their continuing education programs to offer both a university certificate program combined with that level 1 certification from IIBA. So we have big things going on there. including doing a major, we're very close to finalizing a deal to have the level 1 become the standard for use in India. So that's it'll be built into every Indian university program. The other that we're doing on thought leadership, we're going to start implementing a program this year where last year we did a little bit of field work where we went out and asked some people questions. I don't know whether anybody on the call participated, but it wasn't well received at that point because it wasn't targeted at the subject. The new thought leader targets we're going after are the things that we already mentioned. We want to really advance what we're doing in BI. We're going to do more to advance the design thinking. Our biggest play will be in advancing the digital business analysts, and we'll do some more in all of that. So that'll be happening. In the collaborative chapter model, I think this is an area where in the last 2 years IIBA really underachieved. So we'll look at that area this year. We're doing a lot more to try and make some improvements with how we interact with the volunteer chapter network and making sure the feedback loop up from the chapters and getting to the people in the central group will matter more, and look at how we can empower the regional managers to have more autonomy and say in the business. The other that we're introducing is a mentoring program that we hope to get off the ground here in by the end of the quarter. We're also going to be looking at a engagement model, let's call it, of how we work with the chapters to engage the academic, government, and corporate members. So we'll be looking at how that works, how the handoffs work, maybe some shared revenue opportunity in that space. So that'll happen in the first half of the year. So that I think that's going to make a huge difference, and we're also putting a lot of effort, I must be candid, into India because of the huge population and the population of people who aspire to be business analysts, that we can really drive that forward. This middle bullet is an area where this year, this has been on the chart for a while, but this is the year where you intend to make a breakthrough in this with enterprise business analysis core competency is what we call this, but it's a suite of tools that are not meant to be for the practitioner. They're meant to be for a corporation, an enterprise to use. So how to manage a center of excellence, HR practices for job descriptions and engagement with other professionals. A lot of things are going to be embedded into this that will sell as a subscription model, and to do it, our intention is to engage with consulting firms to help implement that. And we're making a significant investment in this in 2017, and we will have it out and done before the end of the year in an agile type way, right? The whole thing won't be done, but modules of this will be released before the end of the year. The other that I think is an area not well understood out there is about what our play is in this leveraging a network of complementary associations. So we've been out doing these, what we call MOU, or a Memorandum of Understanding, with a number of companies. You've seen announcements about it. The real play here is to create an alliance of other professional organizations who work in the same space, that we can begin a sharing, to give some membership benefits back and forth, but limited. The real play is around integrating the intellectual property so that we, our BA BOC and the Biz BOC and the, the CRM, no, not CRM, BRM, the business relationship managers, the business process people, all the change managers have a BOC, to get more of that united in a way that a corporation is able to see it as a single playbook, if you will, of how to more effectively get those better business outcomes. So that's our longer term aspiration. In the meantime, we're moving some of those MOUs to full-on partnerships. That'll, this year we have 4 or 5 of them earmarked, 4 for sure, and we're trying to nail the 5th one down, to actually deliver member value. What will you get from our affiliation with this other group, and make those tangible things that have, content value, webinar value, publication value, a number of things that we think you'll find useful in your day-to-day work and in broadening your understanding of how to work more effectively in your profession. And the last one, this one was always left a little vague, but it's about the full scope of the business analysis discipline. And what we're looking at here are, a couple specific things. One is around how do we really drive out to bring in those closely affiliated hybrid roles and get them more engaged with us and making this, united community of professionals more real. And so that we're not just at an intellectual property level of playing together, but that we're actually finding ways to work together all the way down to the chapter level. How do we bring in the data people from the Data Warehouse Institute or DAMA or any of these others that we're going to be partnering with, or the Business Architecture Guild? How do we really work with them to look at this more blended thing? We see BAs sometimes doing business relationship management roles, doing change management roles. It's a complicated area, and we want to use the tools at our disposal to advance that. We're also interested in improving, just how we explain what we do to those executives that I referred to in the middle tier, about better explaining what is the role of a BA and how do we play with all these other professions. How do we bring deeper and richer content both to the practitioner and to the consumers of our work, the corporations, governments that we work for. So, that's where I wanted to go with that. And that's kind of what the direction looks to be. I think the best thing at this point is probably open it up to questions. I'll answer every question I can as candidly as I can, but recognize, some things at this point I may not be able to answer, or I may not know the answer, but there'll be some of each, I suppose. So I'll open it up to questions at this point.
Hey, Ken, one question I had, which was sent directly to me, was someone asked, is the CBATL out for public feedback now, or is that coming soon?
It's pushed off until about the April timeframe for the level 4. So there'll be a call for volunteers to go with that, to actually take the deep dive, but we'll also open it up for public review after we bring in a kind of an advisory group to work on it first. So I'll tell you where my head is on it, just so you get the context of it. When I looked at it, the notion of the thought leader level 4 position was around just a move up from the CBAP, and it was about trying to create acknowledgement of there's people in the BA profession that are much higher accomplished, have a lifetime of learning behind them. My mental model is that's one definition of it. We want to open it up to others, including, what about people who have really demonstrated a great understanding of how they have gotten better business outcomes, whether or not they're, just saw Aaron's pop up, and giving back to the community is part of that too, clearly. But there's other people who maybe started out as BAs, but then migrated into other professions who have accomplished some really significant things, but have continued to employ good business analysis, even though they're at, bigger jobs that we may not yeah, they may not self-identify as BAs any longer. They may be chief marketing officers, they may be CIOs, they may have a number of different job titles, but we want to be able to give them a path to, feed back into this loop and to be acknowledged. And the other, clearly the individual contributor that does the same thing within a corporation. It may be, a center of excellence manager who has for several years taken their corporation using good business analysis techniques to new levels. So that's the thought mix that's out there as to how we'll look at this freshly, but we wanted to expand it and be more embracive beyond just the next level, beyond CBAP, beyond just an enterprise BA. We want to give a multiple path approach, but still recognizing this is people at the highest level of using business analysis, not just to create their own job title as business analysis. So that's where we're going back to the drawing board on it. Any other questions, Josh? Any other come your way?
Nothing private. The other ones were Aaron's comments about data analysis and how it's they could be a subset of being a BA.
Absolutely. I drew it out because there's, when you look at BA BOK 3.0, it's pretty light on the data aspect, right? We all know that in the day-to-day practice of being a business analyst, it's part of what we do. What it's in the BA BOK, it's not as, in my opinion, it's not as strong as representation in our body of knowledge as it could and should be. So by embedding more of that into the BI perspective is a way around that. But, if I were to comment on it further, I think so is, data analytics as a technique of elicitation and deeper dive forensic analysis of requirements. So I think there's two aspects to it that way. But that's why I emphasized it in the comment, not to say we don't do it today. Clearly we do. It's like saying we don't do change management. Clearly we do. I'm just trying to elevate as saying it's probably worth its own spot, its own perspective, because sometimes our projects deeply involve, as much as they involve technology or requirements side, they involve change management. The classic I can give you from my own personal experience, a little story here. At Sunoco, where I spent 31 years, one of the biggest projects I ran was to take the enterprise paperless. So we went on a mission, a 2.5-year mission, to eliminate every paper form, as many of the paper reports as we could, to drive everything to a paperless implementation. And kind of one of the methodologies we use is convincing the executives to eliminate file drawers when we moved our building, which was right at the end of that 2.5-year period. The fact that they couldn't have file drawers was a big incentive to everybody to cooperate. The point I'm telling you this story was that whole project was driven by a team of business analysts. Like there was a project manager kind of associated with it, but it was driven by business analysts, because you really are saying it's not just a technology change. It's not a big deal to go from a paper form to an Adobe fill-in form. That's not the play. It's about what's different in the way people do their work. And so the business analysts were driving out the forms and the storage where they'd be in a document repository, but more importantly, they were helping people change the way they did business so that it was very transformational. And that kind of a role for a business analyst to understand all the principles of change management and changes in jobs, and so people that were file clerks and those rolling drawers that you see in a lot of big corporations, all of those jobs went away, and it was around how do you move to a digital examination of that same kind of information and a print on demand kind of a world rather than a print and store kind of a world. So anyway, that a little story to say that's the kind of backdrop for me around some of these things. Anything else?
This is Maureen. Can you hear me?
I can, Maureen.
Okay. I had, some questions with these new designations or the, certifications. The industry has come to know the CBAP, and all the, recruitment software, they're just going to key in on certain, things, so they'll look for CBAP. So is there some sort of plan to get these other designations or certifications out so that people recognize them? Like I work in insurance, so it's got CPCU or accounting or CPA. All these are well-known,
Yeah.
certifications.
Yeah, I think that's a significant communication challenge for IIBA is when you do these things, it does impact, common knowledge. I think there's a good and bad side there. I think some people were using this, in particular the CBAP designation was getting to be relatively well known, and I think we'll certainly continue to have that also known as, level 3 as part of what will be happening.
I have another question. I just renewed my certification.
Yay.
And that is quite a process. Is there any thought to working on that, similar like even the also PMP? So in that process, they allow you to submit your stuff and get approved as you go along so that you're not at the end trying to make sure that you got all the categories or whatever covered. So I didn't know if that looked like.
I totally get that one. So, to be candid, we have just implemented the new, what we call the AMS, the Association Membership System. Like any new system, we're going through some startup pains with it. So the certification module to allow online recertification is absolutely in the plan. It is absolutely, based on best practices in recertification, which is to do the kinds of things where you enter in what you did to do it, who you took that opportunity with. It should have pre-registered so we can do it a real-time computerized match to say, all right, that's worth 3 units. That checks, it adds to your bank, so there, we'll get it real time. That is absolutely in the mix. When we can deliver that, I, personally wish it were yesterday. It's been in the backlog for, since we started it, but they couldn't get it in the initial release. I certainly expect to have it before the end of the year. We'd have to give some thought to what else would be more important, but it's important to you, the member. It's also important for IIBA because that manually intense kind of process isn't something that benefits us organizationally either. So,
okay, thank you.
The application, anybody that's applying for a new certification should have noticed the application process is getting a lot easier. I haven't gotten complete endorsement from all the players yet, but we're also looking at an even more accelerated way of speeding through the application process that would involve, kind of a peer review approval, kind of a online interviewing kind of process to, what we're really trying to assure is that in the application process, the real test is the exam, right? We have much more confidence that the exam now represents competency rather than you sitting there mapping things you did 5 years ago against a knowledge area. That exercise, I think we all recognize, wasn't particularly useful, but it was trying to ascertain your real readiness to be certified, to say you could really do the work. So now that we have more faith in the examination process, we're changing our mental model of the application, and so we're going to look to streamline it in a couple of ways. Even the way that's out there now that still probably takes a little more time is mapping experiences, but not necessarily into the detail that it was before. It's not as onerous a process as it previously was, so we think that's a big improvement, but we want to make that process even better. level 1 is going to be no, I mean, there'll be an application, but it's not going to be based on things that you assume the person already knows. It will be based on the examination assuming the person is somebody right out of college or a career changer that, maybe they've gone to a boot camp and all of that, but we're not looking to measure the depth of their experience. These are recognized to be people with a base set of skills, and our play there is really to say, if there is this demand for entry-level BAs, how do we fulfill that? How do we help? What we see, I think we can all identify this. Parents are spending a couple $100,000 to put their kids through college, and they graduate with a degree in English or social studies or communications, and then they find out they can't get a job. All right, so that's a target market for us to say these could be really smart kids, really could become extremely competent business analysts and career changers that are, fighting now that their skills have maybe become obsolete, or maybe they graduated 7 or 8 years ago and have been working in a call center or bagging groceries or something that's not up to their potential. And we want to give those people a path to get into this career and stay with IIBA through at least up to level 3 CBAP level and say, I can really now, over this last period of 7 to 10 years, I really have become competent and have progressed with earning badges, earning certifications, doing all these things. I'm at the top of my game. I'm of value to my employer. That's the mental model we're trying to create. We're trying to create people to come in from the bottom with us and, move up. And a lot of it's around the chapters, right? We need programs within the chapters to mentor people coming in the profession to help them get ready for the, the entry-level examination, to help them gain the ability to do the softer skills. So chapter-level mentoring programs is a play we have to universally put in place. I'd say, 40 or 50 of our chapters are doing a bang-up job with this, but, the other 2/3 of the chapters are not. And I think we can, help spread that word, and it's a real value add. I think it helps the rookies, and it's a give back, kind of the Aaron's comment, a giving back is in part of that. But the other part of it is being a mentor. When you're a senior person, there's value in that to go back and help learn some of the newer things that some of these millennials will bring to the table, who could be absolute wizards at social media and other techniques that, I know for people in my generation that isn't always a natural skill. It's a learned skill, and learning it from those people who have, really grown up with it is a great opportunity too. So that's where we want to go with this thing, and it does involve the chapters. It involves an opportunity, and not to sound too preachy, but the other is, we really have to look at how we as a workforce within our respective countries, really come up to date on what the skills are being demanded by our employers. And business analysis is one of the ones that's growing. And I'm, hanging out there saying digital business analysis is really going to grow, and it'll be a tremendous opportunity. And we can't let it slip through our fingers the way we let manufacturing jobs slip through our fingers and go elsewhere. We really need to create a workforce that's competent, and that's part of what we're attempting to do with level 1 and a lifetime learning perspective. So hope that sheds a little light on that situation. Sorry I blabbed too much there.
I think you answered her question. We did have another private question. You mentioned the certification process will be streamlined. Someone asked, what about the recertification process? Will that be streamlined as well?
The recertification process the online system is our play there, but the other that is coming that will affect recertification is the earning of these badges. So this isn't a 2017 thing, but when we go forward into 2018, we're expecting that we're going to open up this world of badges, and I'll explain that one a little bit more too, but it'll be expected that people earn a certain number of badges in order to qualify for recertification. So that'll be based into the requirement, and they'll be simpler to record. It'll be more streamlined, and it gives you an opportunity for a different way to earn hours credited towards your recertification, and we think the most valuable way. So let me talk a little bit about our vision for the badge thing. So if you take a moment and think about the Apple App Store, where Apple's play is they create a platform for you to use one of those apps, but those apps are created and designed in a crowdsourcing, open source concept, right, where people contribute applications, they get reviewed by Apple, and if they're approved, they're put out there, and they're available to be used. We envision them to be accompanied by materials and perhaps online training modules, but in person if they're not available online. And there'll be opportunities to earn those. And our vision is, like the App Store, there'll be hundreds and hundreds of these badges fairly quickly, because we're not the creator, we IIBA. It'll be anybody who wants to contribute. There'll be some revenue sharing. These aren't going to be expensive things, analogous to an Apple app may be a better analogy. And there'll be things that can be done out there to earn credits, learn a new skill, something that by having it adds, it's something you can actually quote in your resume. And there are things that can be done in weeks, not months or years. So, learning a new skill, say visualization skills, we think that's something that we may offer a badge in, right? And people will create badges to support that. Badges can be tiered together to create, some broader accomplishments to make you ready for maybe a business intelligence position, where, you look at a job today and you say, oh, it requires analytics and knowledge of a BI tool. Well, 80% of the job is just business analysis, right? The 20% is what's new. How quick can we get you ramped up? How much can our providers, today they're EEPs, in the future they could be EEPs and other in that community, that can get you ramped up quickly at an affordable cost, that we reflect your competency in that new area that makes you job ready. That's our vision in that space. And again, probably too much information, but that's where we're wanting to get headed with that. And we just see that opportunity to blend online learning with classroom learning with, reader-based learning, all playing into that space for us and enabling you to advance your career. That's the real point of it, is for you to be able to be better responsive to changes in the marketplace that you think are appropriate and that you can quickly ascertain the skills for, and IIBA can be supporting you in your career aspirations. That's it.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think that was a thorough answer. I don't have any more questions anyone sent me. If anyone has any other questions, you can put them out there chatting to public, or if you want to open up your mic, shout it out.
Well, lacking a question, let me throw one out. Does anybody out there have an idea or suggestion about what they would want or expect from IIBA for us to be able to really make a difference in your professional career life and make a difference to our community? I know, I'm here because we didn't think we delivered well against the 3-year strategic plan at an execution level. We still think as a strategy it's viable, and we're going to be doing an update to that to include more discussion about what I kind of verbally talked about here. But what do you think? give me some feedback as to what I can do to help you and what in my time here as CEO and president I can do for the profession.
I think everybody's being shy.
I can tell. I know Aaron's not shy, but I talk to him all the time, so I know he gets plenty at my ear.
Again, this is Ashish. Just one thing that I wanted to throw in there. I've been kicked into design thinking, at different companies, and I think you spoke about this in one of your slides. And we've been talking about this in the John and the other board members here in New Jersey, and we think having a design SIG would be a good idea. What do you think about that? And do you have any ideas going forward?
I think that's a fantastic idea. Yeah, I think the design concept. So, if you look at the real thought leaders in design thinking, certainly the people out of Stanford University have a lot going on.
Right.
But I know other universities that are more local. I mean, we had a guy that came to the Philadelphia chapter from Philadelphia University who was absolutely phenomenal talking about design thinking. So, yeah, I think having a SIG for the topic is fantastic. It is on our radar to get a discussion group going around that. But I'd also say, gosh, there are people, I'm sure, at Princeton and Rutgers and other New Jersey universities who have spent a lot of time, and probably even have classes and consulting practices out there that would be worth hearing from people to invite to your chapter meetings. I think that would be great. I think you don't have to be spend the $10,000 to go out to the Stanford design class, but bringing in that high level knowledge from a local presenter. If it would help you guys, I can send out the person from Philadelphia University who I can vouch for did a fantastic job presenting.
That'd be great, Ken. We'll definitely reach out to him.
Okay.
Thank you.
I don't know if, Ken, if you saw Aaron's comment about not just helping us grow in our roles, but also the IIBA needs to help us with just publicizing the value of a BA.
Yes, good point, Aaron. So we are continuing. We just started right after BBC. I think only one is out the door so far. There's a series of articles that are coming out, and they're targeted at our consumers, the people that buy our services. So they're in Forbes magazines and things like that is where we're targeting these. And they're little blurbs called I am a BA. So they're not so much aimed at the normal trade publications that you would see, or BA Times or, Modern Analyst. They're not targeted to that community. They're targeted at Forbes and Business Week and Bloomberg Online. That community is where they're targeted to. So that I think that notion of what is the critical role a business analyst plays in an organization, we're trying to deliver that to the management and executives, and that program is happening in 2017. There has been one release this year. It may not have hit the newsstands yet, but it is out there, and it is much more present in the online community of management. Yay, I agree. Yay. The phenomenon, though, to be candid, we're spending a relatively small amount of money, and it's kind of a pebble in the ocean problem, right? So, yeah, we'll get some ripples out of it, but when we get the big splash, I think our belief, and this is a belief that I think I can speak for myself and the board have, is that the big play is that eBack thing, because all of a sudden we're going to be talking directly to the people. These subscriptions aren't going to be cheap that go to these enterprise buyers. they're going to get some attention, but it'll draw attention to the fact of that critical role the BAs play, and that they need to have a good practice of business analysis within our enterprise. They shouldn't manage it to hit and miss the way we typically see it today. That a better formation of how they manage it, no matter what organizational structure they use, just to correctly deploy BAs and not constrain them to that, under a project manager just doing the requirements work. That's not how they're going to get max value. And so we think that when we get the EBAC people and the partners that we're going to send out, so the people we're partnering with on that is like IBM services, Deloitte services, Capgemini, Accenture. These are people already meeting with those executives to sell them products and services. We intend to say one of the things that we're going to put in their tool bag to sell is how to implement a culture of better business analysis using IIBA standard. So we sell them the intellectual property, and they will be using an industry standard, but it'll be implemented by one of these world leader, consulting practice firms who have practices of their own in this space, who can truly be experts. So coming from that level and playing into the corporate leadership market directly, that's the big yay, 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 right? Because the advertising, again, it's the pebble in the ocean problem. This other thing where we're going directly face-to-face with executives with things from IIBA, that's a huge play. All right, we're coming up on 8:30, so.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if John wanted to say any words, or he mentioned you might have a connection problem. John, are you there? Okay, if not, then let me be the one to thank you for, well, not for coming up to Jersey because the weather prevented that, but thank you for being home and talking to us tonight.
Oh, that's my pleasure. Anytime, guys, anytime. I'm here for you.
Great. And we recorded this session, so if anybody had any issues with the audio today, we'll be posting it on our website, and I can send a link to Ken to share with the Philly chapter and anybody else. And thank you all for joining us, and stay safe tonight. Get home. Well, the roads look to be clear now, but thanks you all for attending.